Peace in YouTube. What is up? So we're on part 3 of this SHSAT from cover to cover review. We're in the middle of the revising and the editing still. My head is killing me, so I hope I can keep my stamina up, at least for the moment. We're also at a kind of ugly part of the test, whereas if you could get through the revising part A stuff, those are kind of bite-sizable, but now we're going to get into the revising part B, which deals with passages and so on. And it gets super deep. So if it was confusing earlier with the grammatical and the kind of active-passive voice and the misplaced modifier, it's going to kind of compound at this point, because on top of it, we basically have to read a passage, and even though I'm saying you don't have to understand at the same level as the reading comprehension passages, you still need to understand it, and you still need to figure out contexts. And in some ways, the questions are just as hard. All right, so first of all, let me make sure we're live. Anybody out there? It shows a few watchers. Yes or no? All right, let me see if we're live. Oh, I see there's Jane out there. There's still a few more watchers, showing 4. All right, in any event, if we're good. My voice is screwed up as well. I'm not sure why. So let me just bring up the handbook. So we're in the revising part B. It says read the passage below and answer the following questions. You will be asked to improve the writing. Why is that not highlighting? Improve the writing quality and correct errors that follows the so-called standard written English conventions, whatever they happen to be. In other words, this is osmosis. They're not even telling you some of the specifics. There is different style guidelines, which makes some of these kind of things harder than the others. Traditionally, they seem to avoid a style guideline where style guidelines clash, so that's good. And of course, it has our universal mark the best answer. Okay, so here's the first passage. Let me make sure it's coming up on your guys' screen while that's happening, because it's probably going to be a delay. I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. Please email me about any SHSAT questions you have, or about any other standardized tests. I tutor for a whole bunch of them. There's an overlap between them, even though I know I've done and practiced and curated each different test. In any event, if you have questions about the test, logistics, or specifics, or of course, if you need tutoring, I'm a private tutor as well. I also tutor in groups. There's that. Okay, so it's showing on the screen. That's fitting. So since I'm doing this live, I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to read it. If you're catching this on the replay, my real suggestion is to maybe do a screen capture and print it out. If you happen to have a dual monitor computer, you can show it freeze frame it on the one screen and the other. You could also set up 2 tabs and do the same thing, though you're going to have to switch them back and forth between the tabs. All right, so I'm going to give a couple of minutes for people to read this passage, because it's not so much deep, but it's taking up a full page, and I'm going to reread it myself, because I haven't read it in a bit. And by the way, just to make note, so when you're reading the passage, what you want to look for is things that don't look right. A sentence out of order, a sentence that doesn't look like it belongs, or a paragraph that seems to be missing something, right? There's the main idea to the whole passage, but each paragraph normally has its own main idea. And that's the way they do it, certainly in the any kind of standardized testing passages. All right, so that's what you want to have in mind. You maybe want to put a little question mark or circle the sentence number as you're doing that, because probably there's going to be a question about it. So if you're reading and you notice something wrong, there's probably going to be a question about it. So make a note of it so that when you get to the question, you're there. Now, in the reading comprehension part, I normally ask students to read the questions first, Not the answers, just the questions, to have some idea what they're going to get at here. I'm not as strong as suggesting that here in this kind of passages, because you can always go look it up. You can also look it up in the reading comprehension part. But this is a kind of a different lookup, and in either case, you need to read the passage, because it might be asking you something, say, about sentence number 4, that's covered later on or something. So if say they want you to add a sentence, let's say they want you to add a sentence at the end of the first paragraph. Well, the sentence they have you add may be covered later on in the passage. So although you might seem to think it sounds, oh, that sounds like a great sentence to add, if you don't read the whole passage, then putting it there is in the wrong place, okay? So you still need to read the passage, get the sentiment of the passage, get the flow of the passage, get the organization of the passage, get the sequencing of the passage, and et cetera, et cetera. All right, so I'm going to shut up again. In fact, I just had an idea to maybe make this easier. This is a problem on a live stream to present the questions themselves. And what I'm going to do is see if we can squeeze the questions on it, because normally there's a passage and there's no questions. And when you get to the questions, there's no passage. So let's see what we can figure out here. Oops, sorry about that, guys. All right, I think that would work. Let's see. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically capture each paragraph that a question applies to, and then highlight the paragraph in a separate window that will show on you guys' screen. That way, I think we can get the paragraph and the question onto the same screen. And if you're live, I'm going to talk enough about the answers that you can be reading the question as I'm doing it. And if you're on the replay, it kind of doesn't matter, because you can pause or skip ahead. Okay? So, okay, so this says, what sentences replace sentence number 4? So what I'm going to do is highlight the whole first paragraph. And hopefully this does not crash the display of it. That seems good. I'm going to drag this over. Okay, so let's see if we can get the question and that on there at the same time. Yes, that works. So now let me actually post that into there. And is that too small? Yes, that's too small. So we will do 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 seems to be good, because we might fit in larger things later. And this question is about sentence number 4. All right, so let me go to the live stream and see if that's working. Can you guys see that? It's slightly confusing because you have the original words behind it, but I changed the font to make sure that it doesn't clash. Let me do this. This might be easier too. If I bring the questions, the thing right up to the sentence, that may not work in each case. So let me leave a little gap here. Okay, that should be okay. Oh, you know what? Maybe we can do this too. Can we make this a little longer? Yeah, I think that works. Okay, great, great. I think we have a solution that was bothering me for a while. That's popping into there. Is that good, people? Anybody out there? Anybody out there? Yeah, okay. All right, so we got past that technical difficulty. All right, so let me try to do this on my screen because actually, if you were doing this online at home with a handbook, you have the same problem. Okay, so it says, which sentence should replace sentence 4, which I highlighted, to more clearly introduce the topic of the passage. So we have the notion, what is the passage even about? So you should have grokked the main idea at this point. And then within each paragraph, there's also a central idea as well. So it's saying, if we replace sentence 4, which is this option is all about sharing bicycles, which is a creative and new idea for some, which would be a better choice for that? Okay, so what we have going on in the paragraph is that it's introducing that cars and so on are a problem in a city between congestion and delays and pollution, and that there's another option to cars and trucks and taxis that's gaining momentum in cities in recent years. And then 4 just basically says that option is bicycles, a creative and new idea for some. That kind of worked for me as it was. It's not that there wasn't something wrong with it. It was weak, I'll agree with that. And I like it. It's not really a new idea, but it does say for some. I mean, bikes have been around for a long time and so on. So let's look through the choices. Bike share programs have become an accessible and environmentally friendly solution for many urban travelers. It's the only choice so far, but it seems to capture it. It's introducing that it's about bicycle sharing. It's introducing that it's accessible, so it's not going to maybe cause a delay. It's introducing that's environmentally friendly because they're talking about pollution earlier. And it's talking about urban travelers. It's talking about cities, okay? So it's not really talking about the countryside or the suburbs even. It's strictly about urban situation. In New York City might be a little different because we talked about the New York City tri-state area. You know, Long Island is more congested than other non-cities, okay? So it depends how you look at this. You can even just go 10 miles north of New York or go into New Jersey, and there's less congestion, period, in some areas. So we have situations like that. So anyway, so far, A looks good. B, bike share programs are successful because both residents and tourists can use the bicycles to travel within the city. I don't like that because it lends to the notion that the bike share program was already introduced to us. And that's what sentence number 4 is doing. 4 is the introduction. In other words, it would say, for instance, what it wrote, and then it might follow up that B is there. So B only works if you don't replace it. B only works if you keep the original 4 and add this to it. And I'm not sure if spelling out that there's actually a tourist versus a resident is applicable really here. I didn't get that real sense from the passage that they're trying to distinguish different kinds of bike riders, if you will. So that's more of a weaker point. The more stronger point is that B seems to be a detail for something else. Okay. C, bike share programs offer an alternate form of transportation in urban areas that is faster than using a car or a taxi. So C is good on the one hand and bad on the other. It's good on the other hand that it says bike share programs offer an alternate form of transportation in urban areas. That quite doesn't introduce the option though. It says in recent years another transportation option is there. And they kind of don't say this is the option. I mean, it's assumed, but it's kind of a weak wording, but okay, it works. But then it says this is faster than using a car or a taxi. And it's not just about being faster. It's about congestion, it's about delays, and it's about pollution. That's what one of the main aspects of the passage is about. So C doesn't really capture that either, okay? D, bike share programs have created an affordable, and C almost has a flavor, by the way, that it's a follow-up support sentence as well. So D, bike share programs have created an affordable mode of transportation for people in large cities throughout the world. First of all, again, it doesn't really introduce the option. It's just throwing it out there with a detail. In fact, D almost looks like it could be a concluding sentence to the whole passage, if that's what the passage was about. And it's not exactly about what D says. So that means the answer is A. Okay. So that's that. Okay, 8 talks about sentence number 6. So let me capture the next paragraph. Yeah, you know what? I like the notion of doing this way. Okay, and what was the question about? The question is about best follow sentence 6. So let me make sure this is coming up in your guys' screens. Okay, so which sentence can best follow sentence 6 to help develop the idea in the second paragraph? Sentences 5 through 10. So the little area on the right-hand side that I have that is probably grayed out on your thing. So the bike share concept is fairly simple. Bike stations are set up at multiple locations in a city. What sentence can we put right there? Okay? Okay. So you have to get a context here. We need to have the sentence 5 and 6 leading into whatever's going to go there, and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 have to also logically follow it. Okay? And not just logically, but in flow and tone and style and all these other things. Okay? So let's try E. Bike sharing stations that are located near tourist destinations are major transportation hubs are the most popular. E can work. E can work. So let's see if it's the best choice so far. What I don't like about it is I don't like about it that it mentions tourists again, and I don't like about it that it says it's the most popular. Because if you grok the whole passage, it's not about that. And they're trying to describe this all on kind of a higher level. They're not trying to go too low on stuff here. If the passage started talking about tourists and other things, then I would be more apt to agree with E. Anyway, E is the only option so far, and it's not necessarily wrong. Okay? So again, we're getting this concept of best. So F, a person obtains a bike from one station, rides it for a period of time, and then returns the bike to the original station or to another station within the system. Yes, I like F. I like F for two reasons. First of all, it seems to be maintaining that higher level that I talked about, and there's something also true about this all, which is if we go back to the title of it. And by the way, SHSAT passages used to not have titles. Now they all seem to, which I think is a good thing. It's called Unlock, Ride, Return, and that seems to be, to me, what F says. They're going to obtain it by unlocking it, ride it for a period of time, and then return it. So F is also representing not only what's going on in that passage, but the whole general spirit and essence of what the whole passage is about. Okay, so I like F. In fact, I like F a lot. Okay, G. A mechanism called a dock keeps each bicycle security locked to the station until a user comes along, releases the lock, and starts a ride. So this is kind of the unlock, ride, and return thing again, except it misses the return part, which is probably okay. And if you look at the paragraph, G can fit there. It's in a logical position that it would fit there. There's bike sharing. This is what 5 says. 6 says the stations around the city. G says this is how you get the bike. And then 7 actually has a little more details about how to get the bike. But I think G has an issue, which is that it's too low level. It's so low level, you kind of almost feel like you're there doing it. And I don't think that's the spirit of the passage, and I don't think it's what the spirit of the paragraph is about. Even though 7 gets to be a little more low level too, it keeps it general there. By the way, they do throw the word tourist in there. Okay, so I said before I wasn't sure about that, but that might be the only use. No, it's not. The sentence 10 has it as well. All right, so you have to be aware of this attention to detail. Because I said that earlier, I may go back to change some of my answers. I don't think looking at this now it's interfering with my answers, but I originally thought maybe tourists were not mentioned too many times here. They're mentioned a couple of times here. So if you had ruled it out on some sort of premise like that, you need to go back to your answers. And by the way, remember, guys, I have the liberty now, sitting here in my home, talking on a live stream. You guys have to get these questions done in about a minute. On average, you have to answer a question about a minute and a half. And the problem with the ELA part, which is not the same as the math part, is that you have to read the passage as well. So it's less than a minute and a half average. Some of these, I'm beating these to death, so some of these you might be able to answer in a few seconds so that you have the wiggle room in the others. And that's the problem with this. You only have so much time to do an analysis here. And, you need to get to the point. You don't have the time to, click on Google to find out the answer and find out what does a transition mean and all this stuff. You have to have all this knowledge already there, and you need to be on the get-go. Even if you don't know what a transition is or whatever, you need to just figure things out by context. And that's what a lot of this test is testing. It's not just a test about knowledge. It's about what can you do when you're handed something. How is your problem-solving skills? Can you do stuff out of the box? Okay, and on the fly, and do a snap decision that's right. Okay, because in a lot of cases in the real world, that's what things are about. Okay, all right. So let's get back to this. So G was too low level. H, bike sharing stations have been built in many large cities in the U.S., including Boston, San Francisco, Chicago, Minneapolis, and Denver. Nah. No, even though 6 talks about multiplications in a city, mentioning the cities at that point is silly. Okay? So that would not be, that would, again, I've mentioned in the other two things that scramble paragraphs used to be part of the SHSAT, and flow organization and flow is a significant part of something. So this is kind of adding it back in through an indirect means. And by the way, one thing I want you guys to grok out of all these discussions and any other work you do in preparing for this SHSAT is that this is also going to make you a better writer. Now that you have an understanding of what should or shouldn't go into how you compose things, you're going to be able to think of these things while you're producing your own material and finding out if something is in the wrong place, and so on and so on and so on. All right? So that means F. F was the best answer. Okay? Okay, 9 is about the same paragraph, so where is 8 and 9? 8 and 9 is here. Let me make sure this is still going. Yes, it is. Okay. One second. Sorry, I got a text popping up. So where will we? Okay, so which is best for 8 and 9? So many city bikers prefer bike sharing over ownership. They are not responsible for the bike storage or its maintenance. And again, this, by the way, people, I know this is tedious and boring. It's the only way to get through this section. So deal with it. And hopefully you're seeing patterns emerge as we're talking about things. So you're going to get used to the various questions they're asking, the style of the question they're asking. An important thing is to start thinking, why are they even asking this for me? Always put on your test writer hat. Make believe you're the person writing the test and asking yourself, why are they asking me this kind of a thing? And it can give you a context and an introspection for kind of producing the answer, okay? So many city bikers prefer bike sharing over ownership. They are not responsible for the bike storage or its maintenance. So what is the best way to combine those two sentences to clarify the relationship between the ideas? Okay? A, although they prefer bike sharing over ownership, many city bikers are not responsible for the bike storage or its maintenance. I don't like the word although, I think for the same reason I mentioned yesterday. It's just the wrong transition word. There's a second issue too, which is that it should have introduced city bikers first. Instead of saying they, it should have used city bikers. Like, although city bikers prefer bike sharing over ownership, the reason why is because they are not responsible for bike storage or its maintenance. That would be a superior sentence. So it's not necessarily that the although is there, but the phrase, there's the although up until the comma, and then the other part, and it just doesn't work. Okay? So anyway, it's the first shot, so, but I don't think it's superior. It can't be. I would rule out A altogether. B. Many bikers prefer bike sharing over ownership, and they are not responsible for the bike storage. So B is just combining 8 and 9 with an and, I believe. There might even be, it might be word for word with the word and in there. And it's not combinational like that. There's a reason here. There's a cause and effect going on. Because of something, they want something else. And notice I just used the word because. So instead of and, it should have more have been a because. Okay? Many city bikers prefer bike sharing over ownership because they are not responsible. So remember, you just don't take a transition word like and, a conjunction like that, and throw in any other thing. Some you learned about fanboys and other transitions. the A in fanboys is and. That means for, and, no, nor, but, or, yet, and so, or something like that. All right? And the point of fanboys isn't that you can just randomly replace these words. For instance, so means more like therefore. But therefore doesn't mean the same as and. Okay? And even therefore wouldn't really work here. Because looks like the best one. All right? So B is worse than A to me. C, since many bikers prefer bike sharing over ownership, they are not responsible for the bike storage or maintenance. Yeah, C is the best answer so far. I think since is weak, but and I also think it lends to kind of two definitions, two meanings to what might be going on there, because I don't really think that's the relationship that the two sentences are bringing about, but it works. So C is the best answer so far. And many city bikers prefer bike sharing over ownership because they are not responsible for the bike storage and maintenance. So if I got it right, D is exactly 89 with the word because between it. So that is showing the interrelationship directly between the use of them. And that's what the word because is. That's what it does. So why are city bikers not responsible for the storage? Because they prefer it over ownership. Okay? And again, C is really close. C is really close. So if you ruled out A and B, you're ahead. If you thought it was C, since is not the right word. And again, a lot of transition words are confusing to a lot of kids. You guys are younger, and reading is an important thing. This is not quite just about looking up the word since in the dictionary and saying, well, it means that, and this is one of the things that it can apply to. Remember, they're looking for the best way to combine these two sentences. Not any way, the best way, okay? Okay, sentence 10, revision of sentence 14. So let's go to 14. Okay, this is a large paragraph, so let's see if this fits on the screen properly. And 14 is where? Yeah, me doing it this way I think is working out a lot. Okay, now just make sure that all fits on the screen. Yeah, let me do one thing. Let me drag up the question slightly. Oh wait, the question's not even there. 14 is here. Let me make sure everything's showing for you guys. Okay, there we go. Okay, which revision of sentence 14 uses the most precise language? So we covered this, I think, 2 or 3 times already, certainly twice. And this is a technical term, and they're asking for something exact here. So in 2016, people used City Bike for lots of trips, which turned out to be a huge increase in the number of people taking rides from the previous year. So this is one of the sentences that when you first read it, it kind of should have leaped out at you. Okay? By the way, sentence number 13 should have leaped out at you as well, because it kind of doesn't seem like, to me, it didn't seem like it belonged there. It was just like wham. And so I think 13 may get deleted, and 14 is not specific. So they use words like a lot. And when I tutor kids for writing, I tell them don't use a lot. So whenever you see a phrase like a lot in a passage like this, that's a red flag that, oh, they're probably going to ask me about this. So in other words, just take this paragraph alone. They mentioned the year, they mentioned 10,000 bikes, 600 stations, 7 million people in China, 75,000 bikes, 2017 stations, and all of a sudden, in 2016, just a bunch of people took a bunch of trips. All right? So we want to resolve a lot. We want to resolve huge, and we want to resolve maybe even previous year. That's probably okay though, and things like that. So we want some more specificity involved in the sentence number 14. So let's try E. In 2016, data revealed that City Bike was used for millions of trips. So it's not just a lot of trips now, it's millions. It's still not getting 100% specific, but we know now that it's used in millions, which shows that the program had a 40% increase in ridership. So instead of a huge increase, it's a 40% increase in ridership from the previous year. So E is definitely more precise than the original sentence. So let's stick with E for now. Okay, for F, in 2016, nearly 14 million trips were recorded. So now we went from a lot of trips to millions of trips to exactly 14. That's very precise. So let's see if they continue with that, the spirit of that or not, which adds up to a huge increase in the ridership compared with the previous year. So whereas E mentioned 40%, this doesn't. So we gained, so whereas E said millions without the number and put 40, this now says the exact million count, but not what the percent increase was. So now I have a line in the sand that E and F flip-flop. So because E and F flip-flop, and they both are specific in one thing and vague in another, even though both are better than the original thing, they're both kind of 50-50 to me, which means to me we're going to rule out both of them. Both of them, because which one can win? If one improves one part and doesn't in the other, and the other improves the other and not the other, then they're kind of equal answers. So just by virtue of, this is kind of like a test-taking skill. Just by virtue of that, it probably is not going to be E and F. Okay, G. In 2016, City Bike documented nearly 14 million trips, so they add that back in, which amounted to an astonishing, good word, which is better than huge. It's not necessarily more, that's not necessarily more precise, but it's just a better wording, a 40% increase. So G puts the 14 million and the 40%. So G seems to rule. Just let me read it one more time to make sure that it doesn't have any other problem. Remember, if there's another problem in the answer, then it's not the best sentence, even though it's asking about precision. Normally, you're supposed to focus only on what the question's about. But if it just threw the word like orange in the middle of that, you know that can't be the answer, all right? So in 2016, City Bike documented nearly 14 million trips, which amounted to an astonishing 40% increase in ridership from the previous year. Yeah, I'm in love with this one. H. In 2016, City Bike saw 7 million trips. So again, they're going back to being vague, which turned out to be a big increase in ridership from the previous year. So H kind of parallels E, and that's really just a filler at this point. So 10 should be G without a question, all right? Okay, 11 is going to be 17, which looks like this beginning of another paragraph. So let me capture both of these and see if I can get that to fit on the screen. This may be our problem paragraph or whatever. No, we're good. So it was asking about the beginning of 17. Was that what it said? Which question are we at? 11, okay. Which sentence when added before? So we're talking about, how can I do this? Let's see. Putting something right there on that little spot I have there. Okay, let me make sure that's showing on your guys' screens. I totally lost Let me see if the stream is even going. I lost the the YouTube connection. Let's see if we're still good. It probably is still going. And nobody complained. I'm still seeing 2 viewers. Am I live? I don't know if this... Not sure how that works when that happens. Basically, my YouTube tab crashed. And, okay, well, I still see it on the screen. Let me just bring the question down slightly because I think that's not showing. Weird. Basically, my tab crashed, I guess is the way to say this. My tab crashed, and I guess my software is still going, so I thought I needed that to be running. I guess not. Well, I'm going to find out. I'm definitely going to replay this video and see what's going on here. All right, so let me focus back on the question. So, which sentence should be added before 17 to improve the organization of the 4th paragraph? So the 4th paragraph is where 17 begins. And I included the previous paragraph because normally they're asking for a transition sentence. We have whatever happened in paragraph number 3, which starts at 11 there, and then whatever is going to go on in paragraph 4. And often we can change subjects. We can flip into something else, but often there's a transition. So let's see what the choices are and see where we can go in here. So, but they're focusing on the organization of the 4th paragraph. They're not asking necessarily for a transition sentence. I'm just doing a heads up here that in case it was, that you guys always need to look at context, which is both before, during, and after. So they're asking for the during part, but it has to fit into there, okay? And remember that even though the answer might fit after 16, that doesn't mean it also fits before 17. So you have to accommodate both of these things. Okay, 11. Experts increasingly want to discuss the positive effects of bike sharing programs, such as city bikes in big cities. No. 17 is about air quality. It's about pollution. So the main idea of 17 is about pollution. It's not about the positive effects. Yeah, one positive effect is that it's helping the carbon dioxide situation, but that's not the right lead-in to present that. Okay, 11B. While bike sharing programs offer clear benefits to riders, some cities cite another reason for support. Yes, so now this is introducing. In other words, A would actually follow B if you were going to produce it that way. That would still be sloppy, but I'm just trying to present a sequence of things. And by the way, this ties into the scrambled paragraphs again, that you need the order of things to be proper and correct. It's not that I want scrambled paragraphs to come back, but the notion of organizing something is good. And again, getting back to how you write things on your own. I tutored kids for the Hunter College High School exam, and one of the sections for that, they have similar sections to this. Actually, they removed the grammar part, but there's a writing part, and this is a big problem kids have in their own writing. These are kids younger than you, but when I tutor other kids at your age, it's something you guys need to work on, which is sequencing your things in the right order. It's not that your flow is out of control, it's just that your flow is too loose, and that spaghetti factor where it's just all jumbled up is too strong, that you guys just want to just throw things into stuff where it quite doesn't belong. It should be spun off into another paragraph. You should have better introductions, and I don't just mean the introduction to the whole passage, but introductions to what you're going to talk about and be able to split it up better, which is hard to do. I'm not trying to say all this is easy. So B, while bike sharing programs offer clear benefits to riders, some people cite another reason for the support of the bike share program. Okay, and that, even though 17 doesn't quite say it's a reason, it's a reason. and it follows through that other cities have noted the same thing. So B is the answer so far, the winner. A can't be it. Okay, C. If bike sharing programs are going to continue to increase in popularity, it is important for communities to discuss all these benefits these programs offer. No. Even though 17 talks about a benefit, C has a couple of things. It's talking about communities doing stuff, and that kind of didn't come into here. If they added that, then it needs to be another paragraph or something discussing that. There wasn't, so it's not C. The other issue is that this is not necessarily talking about bike sharing programs continuing to increase in popularity. It's there, that's a running theme, but not for this paragraph. That might be a good concluding sentence for the whole passage, but it's not a lead-in sentence for 17 and 18. That's for sure. Like B is a lead-in. It's saying there's benefits, and here's one of them. Okay, whereas C is like, we need to talk about this, and here's one of them. But you didn't say what the this was, whereas B does say what the this is. Okay. D. City Bike is an innovative program that can cite positive statistics about ridership from one year to another. This is 17 and 18 is not about ridership per se. It's not really about ridership at all. So even though the saving of 5,000 tons of carbon dioxide is a positive statistic, D is just out there. So that means the answer is B. Okay. Okay, so now it's going to talk about which sentence should best follow 18, which is here now. How can I do this? Over here on the side, let me make sure this is on your guys' screens. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, which sentence could best follow sentence 18? In other words, the end of the paragraph, and support the main point of the fourth paragraph, 17 and 18. So what's the main point of the fourth paragraph? The main point of the fourth paragraph is that bike sharing programs help the cities there, and that there's other cities that do it as well as New York City. Okay, so 12 is E. Bike share programs are developed in cities mainly to improve air quality. There may be cities that have done that for that reason, but I need convincing that is what the passage is saying, and that is what this paragraph is saying. So it's not E. If E's the best chance, right? It's the best one, so E's the only answer we have so far. So let's go with E, even though it seems like a horrible choice. F. Sorry, guys, I keep coughing into the mic. Participants in a bike share program is the main way travelers can improve air quality in the city. Definitely not. So I think E is stronger than F so far. Even though it may be found to be the case that this is a way to do it, it says that it's a main way for travelers to improve air quality in the city, and the passage doesn't really go there. Remember, they're not just asking like what's a good sentence to follow here. The question specifically says support. When you did the New York State ELA test, you were talking about support your ideas, answer the question, and then give support. So they're asking what sentence can give support for sentence 17 and 18 here, right? It specifically says support. So again, we're talking about a technical term here. So E and F don't do that. G. Cities may begin to experience improved air quality as more travelers use the bike share program. Okay, G is weaker than what E and F were trying to communicate. But it's stronger as an answer. In fact, it's fairly weak, but it's just to the point. 17 says that this carbon dioxide is saved. 18 says, yeah, it's a good thing other cities are doing it. And G says this could be like a trend. Cities are experiencing this as more people, right? Whereas F said it was the main way, and E also talked about mainly. So even though G is more subtle and even a weaker statement, it's more true. So it's G so far. And 8 says bike share programs may be more effective at improving air quality in some cities than they are in other cities. That was not the point of mentioning New York City, Montreal, and Lyon. So no. In fact, 17 and 18 is saying here's a bunch of cities where it's happening. It's not saying one is better than the other. It only mentions New York City's tonnage. So H is not it. So 12 is G. Okay. Okay, 11 through 16 is up here. So 11 through 16 should still be on your screen. Which sentence is irrelevant to the idea of the third paragraph? So sentence 12 is this one here. So the largest bike sharing is in New York City, known as City Bike, the program. Okay, so it says there's a bike share program in New York City. It gives it a name and talks about it. And then there's other things. So 12 seems to flow. 13, by the way, 13 was the one I pointed out earlier. So the problem with 13 is this paragraph is about the New York City bike share program. So why are they throwing in some facts about a city in China? Now, and if they did that, it probably belongs after sentence number 16. By the way, this happens in other cities, and then puts like simile in Hangzhou. I don't know how to say that. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so 13 is kind of just stuck in there. It's not just sticking in like oranges are colored orange. The context is kind of there, but the main idea of paragraph 4 was about New York City bike share programs. And 13, it sucks enough that I would even stop answering this question at this point. But let's just look at the 15. The numbers are likely to increase further since the program is set to expand. Whereas 14 was talking about a lot of trips. 14 was the sentence we improved before. But even if we don't improve it, it's talking about stuff. And it's saying that we found out it was 14 million or 40% or whatever. That whatever those numbers are, even if we leave it a lot of trips and a huge increase, there's going to be more lots and larger users. Okay? So that flows, and it's in the right place. And 16, according to the bike share, Okay, that's a good concluding sentence to the paragraph. So 13 is evil, burn that sucker, right? Okay, 14. Which concluding sentence should replace 20? Okay, so where's 20? Yeah, I like doing this way a lot. And we're going to stop here, by the way, after this sentence. So we just took a bite-sized piece. We beat it to death. Which concluding sentence should replace sentence 20? Where are we? Which concluding sentence should replace sentence 20 to better support the information presented in the passage? So they're not only asking for a good concluding sentence for the last paragraph, but really for the whole passage. So 14, we have E. Over time, bike sharing may become a routine part of modern urban life. It's going to replace bike sharing as a new mode of transportation. And by the way, 20 is wrong, just universally. If we go back to the first paragraph, I pointed out something where it said this option is all about bike sharing, which is creative and new idea for some, right? It's not a new idea. The problem with the last sentence is it says it is a new idea. So the last sentence was just wrong altogether. Sorry, I'm trying to bring this up for myself again. So 20 needed to be revised no matter what. It kind of had a misspokenness to it. So overtime bike sharing may become a routine part of modern urban life. Yeah, if you go back to the first paragraph, that's what part of this is talking about. It's also the lock, unlock, and return thing, but the second kind of equal main idea running through it was that this is a viable solution for cities. It's working for cities, and it's probably something that should continue to expand. Okay, so concluding that it should be E makes sense. So E, I like E so far. I don't know if it really slaps me in the face. I'm not saying it's bad or horrible. It's just there. And by the way, sometimes the best sentence or way to say something is just to say it simply. Okay, everything you do doesn't need to be an exciting roller coaster where you're screaming. Okay, some things can just be precise and concise, brief and to the point. Okay, clear and concise. F, even small or medium-sized cities can benefit from implementing a bike share program. Yeah, F can work, but there's kind of two, maybe more. Well, there's a few things. I don't know how many. One is that this is really about urban kind of things, which if you go back to urban life on E, that's kind of the rule. Although it's true that this might also work in smaller cities, this was about not smaller cities. In fact, even on 19, it says as populations grow. Now, you may argue that populations may grow in small and medium-sized cities. Yeah, but then do they not become small and medium-sized cities? Don't they grow into large and medium-sized cities? So there's kind of an upset going on in F there. And that's not really what the whole passage is about. It was really focusing on urban cities. So to conclude the whole passage with that, it could work, but I like E better. Okay, 14G. Compared with other solutions, bike sharing seems to have the most potential. No, we got back to that back here where on 12 we're talking about mainly in E and mainway in F. No, that's not the deal here. It doesn't say that bike sharing has the most potential. It's just introducing and saying it works. Now, it might be true that it has most potential, but nothing in this passage talked about that. Again, if we go back to 12, I mentioned that support was a keyword, a technical term. So we have that same thing we're being asked here. Which concluding sentence to best support the info presented in the whole passage? Okay? So the whole passage wasn't talking about that. And that's not a good conclusion for it. Bad author. Okay, H. Ultimately, bike sharing is an interesting and unique way for tourists to explore a city. Isn't that just lovely? It's also wrong. Okay? That's not the best way to support this here. That they're talking about congestion, they're talking about people commuting around, they're talking about pollution. And la-di-da, let's just make the conclusion that we have a tourist and they live happily ever after. So it's not that. So the answer here is E. 14 is the best answer. All right, people. We beat that to death a bit. I hope everybody is getting a spirit out of this. I hope you're also seeing why this was something I kind of avoided for so long. But you know, oh, you're welcome. You know, everybody out there, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I have more coming. I was going to do from cover to cover here. I might do another part later today even. So let's see where we end up. I might do a lightning round, or I might just take it easy. I have a lot of stuff going on. Again, my head's killing me. I'm surprised I even got through this. My throat is messing up. I don't have a cold. I have chronic head pain. I think I told you guys this. And it pops up every day, I don't know, based on the phase of the moon or some nonsense like that. So, all right, I'm rambling. So try to grok what I'm saying. Try to put yourself in the right shoes when you're answering these questions. Remember, the question itself has a lot of little nuggets in it for you guys to use and base your answer off of. And if you go through ruling out things, finding out which is weaker than the other, and ranking them, you can do that. And by the way, on the state test, I normally tell kids when you're ruling out answers, if you have the 4 choices, one answer is normally ridiculous, and then you're left with 3, and then you find out another one is kind of out there, and then you really have to choose between 2. This is different, if you guys can see. This, even though there was ridiculous answers, they're not as ridiculous. They're more contextually solid. Okay, even though I ruled some out saying they weren't, these are harder things. Also, in the state test, you're given shorter answers, and these are all kind of longish, and especially when we get to reading comprehension, we'll see that as well. So just take each of these one step at a time. Remember, you have the clock going against you. That's the killer here. Again, I'm sitting here laid out on my couch doing this stream. I'm relaxed as heck. That's not necessarily your scenario on the actual test, but you're studying, you're practicing, and this is somewhere that could be beneficial to you guys. All right, everybody. Peace, 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 peace.